Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks in another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we are taking a look at a pro level 3v3 that was played quite recently on Canis River. A map that we see very often in the 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, all the small team game modes. It's a map that features a lot of cool stuff that we'll get into in a moment after we meet our team. So without further ado, our blue team leader spawning as an Armada commander. Let me take a moment to say that I'm always thrilled when I see an Armada commander. Cortex has long dominated the 1v1 and also the small team game scene, so I'm always so excited whenever I see an Armada commander in the team leader position. A blue commander that goes by the name of Lobster Meat. Lobster Meat clocking in at 34 open skill on the small team ladder, which I also wanted to talk about in a second here. I've got a big queue of things that I need to discuss with you guys. But we'll do that likewise after we meet the rest of the team here. It's going to be Lich, 1584 here, clocking in as the Cyan commander for the blue team. And rounding us out, we have Laughing, the green Armada commander as well. Is this, oh wow, okay, so we've got 1 core, 2 arm here, which is very interesting to see. Also, 1 core bot, 1 arm vehicle, and 1 arm bot lab. So a very varied composition right here. Very lovely to see. That's 3 varies. Across the map here is spawning in the red leader position. It's Sir Ice Cream the 55th. Gonna be going for some of those good old-fashioned Cortex bots, and indeed gonna be pumping out a res bot here to eat up some of the cacti that lie around over the place. We got some peyote, looks like we've got some San Pedro as well. A whole bunch of different cacti available here for loads of consumption, eating that worthless biomass and turning it into juicy, juicy energy. Spawning as the orange commander, we have Winged Hussar, and the yellow commander, it looks like it's going to be Scuttles, rounding out the composition. So, first things first, one of the things I wanted to talk about is that recently, well, I say recently, this was a couple of months ago, but anyway, it's recent for me, right? The big team battles and small team battles used to be a combined leaderboard. That has since split, and now I believe the line is drawn at 5v5. I believe it's 5v5 is the biggest that's considered a small team battle. A 5v5 is a small team battle. A 6v6, for instance, would be a big team battle, and that's, you know, usually it's an 8v8 or something smaller like a 3v3 or a 2v2 or a 1v1. 1v1 is a duel, 2v2 to 5v5 is a small team, and then anything bigger than that is a big team battle, right? That's the way that the leaderboard is broken up, but what it means is that the rankings are a little bit different. They're skewed slightly differently for the big team battles as opposed to the small team battles, so I wanted to take a second here to take a look. I have the leaderboards pulled up right here, so currently, the #1 player on the small team leaderboards is Claret, hailing at 47.41 open skill, followed by Ragna, and then X Factor Live. So those are our big 3. Those are the top 3 players, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to cast a game with all them, but what it means is that the open skill ceiling for small team battles is 47, right? That's kind of the upper maximum. So when we think about the fact that these are 35 and 34, we are very close to that ceiling, right? So what this means is that despite this difference being not so much higher than, well, for instance, even my own rank in a big team battle, it means that they're actually quite a bit significantly more better at the small team battle. That's, you know, the long story short on all that, and there's plenty of mathematical breakdowns. I've seen some really impressive stuff on the Reddit. But that's one of the interesting things I wanted to talk about. Now, as far as Canis River is concerned, it's a pretty interesting map because it has, of course, these big rivers running through it all over the place. That is traversable by commanders, but not by units. So there's some weird situations that I've seen commanders get into where, for instance, a commander pushes across this little gap right here. Say, for instance, Ice Cream walks across this gap, deguns the laboratory, and then flees back to their side of the map, and units are unable to chase that commander down. It's a really, well, annoying strategy. Annoying to say the very least, but effective too. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see something like that this game. Anyway, we've talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but how about we talk about this game right here? A lovely engagement for Lich 1584, who's blasting down a bunch of the grunts here for Sir Ice Cream, taking a phenomenal trade as the red commander slowly but surely expands forward. Scuttle's going to be taking this high ground position right here, and it looks like a couple of blitzes have made it into the backline. Okay. This is an issue. We're going to need to clean it up, and it looks like the Orange Commander, Winged Hussar, is going to be tasked with doing so. Yeah, those blitzes making it into the back, and there's not a lot they can do, they being the Red Commander, Sir Ice Cream, to clean all this up. Thug now firing away here at the blitzes, and they're forcing him towards the ponds. The blitz is looking for any angle they can to try and run away right here. That light plasma bot doing its very best to try and catch the single blitz, but you can see so many forces are pulled to try and deal with this. A massive waste of resources, eating up APM and eating up firepower in the backline of the red team, giving the blue team a distinctive advantage on this right-hand side, where you can see Laughing is easily expanding. Now, there is a single pawn in the backline, which is always cool to see. Hidden pawn can be used for later mech sniping, later base sniping, if we move this pawn in at a later time. Oftentimes, you can manage to sneak it by the defenses that aren't expecting a unit to already be hidden in the back. Man, it is cool to see pawns going up against grunts in such big numbers. For the longest time, that just didn't happen. Nowadays, it feels like it's more and more a possibility. So glad to see top-level players figuring out how to make it work. That's one of the things that I love about RTS games, is that the build orders and the build counters and all the different strategies are always varying. It's constantly different from day to day. Really cool to see. Also very important to keep up on, so you're not playing a build that's 2 months outdated on a patch that doesn't exist anymore. One of the best ways to do that is to subscribe down below so you don't miss a video that does come out every single day. I do a daily cast of Beyond All Reason as well as streams on Saturday, which, as of recording this video, will be tomorrow, so feel free to tune in case you're new around here. A big hearty welcome to you. Plenty of links down below you're more than welcome to investigate in case you're one of those creative folks that likes to join up and play some fun games. There's loads of stuff for you, treats down below that I'll just let you figure out how to interact with. Anywho, another blitz coming through, and these are doing more damage the more of them break through. These shouldn't really be finding value at this point in the game, but they sure are. The Green Commander Laughing doing a phenomenal job of managing to sneak them through. This one managed to run into the commander, or should I say mistakenly ran into the commander, so it didn't manage to find the value it was hoping for. But certainly it continues to be this opportunity path on the southern side that's exploitable. I want to select one of these. Hold on. I think if we select one of these blitzes right here, I want to check something. I believe there's a traversable path right here. Yeah, okay. So you can see this area right here. I'm going to circle it. This area is traversable to bots and vehicles. It doesn't look like it. It's very difficult to tell unless I enter this traversability mode. But you can see right here, basically impossible to tell. You really have to have some map knowledge to understand that, but there's a little area where units can traverse, and of course that's mirrored on the northern side. Anyway, big old battle going on the northern side as a bunch of grunts push forward. The first aggression, I do believe, from the red team into the enemy backline, and it looks like, well, we're in a decent position to do some stuff. Yeah, gonna tear down some wind turbines, and that's always nice. Popping a little bit of that energy infrastructure. Ooh, but an APM stall on these red grunts does mean that they're gonna stall out for just a second. It's all the time that these stouts need, though, to clean up the majority of these, and down goes another grunt. Metal extractor falls, LLT, ooh, reinforcements here. No LLT, I was going to say in base for the green commander, so it's just the units on the defense. Reinforcements from the orange commander overwhelm the base right now of Laughing, and it means that that lab is suddenly all alone. No constructors to help with production. That lab is going to be spewing out units very slowly. Eventually, all of this cleaned up so slowly, and leaving the green commander high and dry with very little build power, the only build power being the constructor in the background here. Eventually, those run-by grunts are going to be cleaned up right now. A big old run-by to try and counterattack right now as tons of cyan grunts push across the battlefield. That's Lich, 1584, trying to find some value. Nice splits right there. Splitting up the grunts to try and take out the metal extractors here while trying to get as much value from those very cheap early game units. My goodness. I made this comparison before, but every time I do, I feel a little bit bad. Like it's rude to say. The pros look like bots. They control units with the same ferocity, the same movement around the map, the same multi-dimensionality that bots control things. If you ever spectate a bot, you can hit Control A, and it'll show you all of the movement commands around the map. And it looks like a mess just like this, but even more chaotic because every single unit has been queued 3 or 4 different ways. Pretty wild to look at in case you're ever playing against bots and you just feel like looking at something interesting. It's one of my favorite things to do in the background. Sometimes, okay, I'm going to admit something to you guys, and you have to keep it private because this feels a little bit embarrassing, but sometimes I like to just put on a game of Beyond All Reason, and what I'll do is I'll queue up a skirmish match, and I'll just put a couple of AI on two different teams, and I'll just let them battle each other, and I'll just watch. Yeah, I'll just watch from the corner. Sometimes that's my guilty pleasure, is just watching AI try and figure out how to battle each other. Alright, so Ice Cream going for it here. This is, oh, okay, actually this was a little bit of a miscue, but I think so, what's happening here is the red commander has miscued the commander to reclaim a bunch of trees all in this area. The cyan commander is thinking, oh crap, that commander is headed right for my base. I need to get units into position. So this is like an unintentional fake out right here from Sir Ice Cream. Love that play though to put down that spy camera. So at the very least gonna have some vision across this area in case an enemy commander does push in here. What a hilarious little move. Oh, big bombing run moving up in the yellow sector here. Looks like these Stormbringer bombers are gonna head out across the map. No anti-air defense here for the blue team. They're planning on taking up right here. You can see Lobster Meat going for that T2, but not prepared for an air attack whatsoever. The first scout plane should be spotted here, and the chainsaw immediately starts up. We need to devote all metal on deck into producing that chainsaw. Yeah, you can see the build turrets immediately reclaiming the lab to try and eat that metal up, but an unfortunate timing is that T2 lab is where all the metal's at and not the anti-air defense. Bombers coming across the map and connecting in a big way against the entire blue facility. The T2 lab goes down and the build power is the only thing that remains standing. Bombers continuing to ravage the base right here as the yellow commander has done insurmountable damage to the blue commander Lobster Meat. Chainsaw finally up and running, firing away at all of this base here, or all these bombers here rather. Will it be enough though? The thing about the Chainsaw is that it's wonderful single target damage, so it's actually one of the better T1 defenses against, for instance, dragons or some of those heavier, the Tyrannus for instance. The heavier T2 planes, but against T1 it really tends to overkill a lot. It means that against these bombers it's not going to be able to clean all of them up. One by one it'll eventually deal with them, but as long as we see a little bit of splits here, the blue commander should be, or the yellow commander should be pretty happy with the way these bombers are going. Geothermal has gone down right here, which is obviously lovely. The only saving grace here is that because the yellow commander went so heavily into air, there's no contest for this little spot over here. So this area is completely nice and neatly cleaned up, which does mean that at least for the time being, this air run is, I would say it's done enough damage, but it would need to do more to continue to prove valuable here. And there we go. The Chainsaw continuing to fire away. Nicely done. Yeah, single bomber is not very powerful here. The Stormbringers really rely on having mass numbers. And just like that, the Chainsaw is going to be enough to protect the blue commander. Killer Eastall right there, though, as all the wind turbines do go down. His teammates are going to need to cover for him. Resbot's running around picking up the green commander's stuff here as well, is draining tons and tons of energy. Wind turbines, metal extractors, you name it, some more, and the rest, all going to be trying to be resurrected. But of course, that does put you in a really tricky situation because suddenly all your energy you need to resurrect your energy production is being dumped into resurrecting your energy production. It's a horrible catch-22. Lich 1584 has to be pleased with the way that this front line's been going, though. Just continually pumping out thugs and sending them to the front. We do have anti-air bots coming out as well. You've seen the T1 air, so you know that there's the possibility that more air could be coming out, but it was Armada, and Armada doesn't really have much that can threaten ground forces in T1. The most threatening thing would probably be bombers themselves, just connecting in a big way with early ground units. Sometimes a strafing run or two in the right direction at the right speed, under a lot of really specific circumstances, can end up doing a lot of damage. As long as you micro fairly decently, though, it's pretty easy to negate. Essentially, building a big squiggle of units like this, usually more than enough to go ahead and counteract the effects of a bombing run in the early game. Anti-air bots are a decent investment, though, because you never know when scout planes or something like that might come across as well. Good to keep the enemy's scouting held down. T2 lab coming up here for Winged Hussar. Are we going to go ahead and T2, or double team this, I mean? The Red Commander eating up the T1 core lab in favor of a T1 arm lab. Interesting choice there. Apparently favoring T1 arm bots. Okay. Maybe not. We're kind of reclaiming everything here. I think probably the best bet is to funnel metal into the orange commander to try and get that T2 up and running. T2 from the blue lab, by the way, was reclaimed. So the metal that was dumped into the T2 lab will be respent on another T2 lab, and eventually we're going to be stabilized here. Lobster Meat got the geothermal, pardon me, not the fusion reactor, up and running, and so that's a cool 300 energy per second, but on top of the wind and all the rest of the stuff that's been handed over here to the blue commander, or resurrected by the blue commander, this should all be well and good. So nicely done. I mean, the green commander is holding the front line, right? We have plenty of units to continue production. In fact, we set up a whole other laboratory over here. 2 labs running, not ideal, so reclaiming one of these might be the right solution. There's plenty of constructors, though, that we could use in the backline. Idle constructors should never be. Always want to keep those moving at a pace. Tech's coming out of the lab here. Okay. Interesting tech transition from the red commander, opting to go for some of those T1 arm bots. What an interesting decision making here. Okay. Either way, the orange commander now going to be building a couple of T2 constructors, trying to get that T2 economy up and running. Just barely enough range here for these construction towers to eat, or to upgrade rather, those T2 metal extractors. Always good to do, though. 4x the metal income is impossible to deny. That is phenomenal gains for the red economy here. Right now, about neck and neck as far as metal production goes, a massive advantage for the red team as far as energy production goes. Largely in part to this huge wind turbine farm in the backline here. Armada having the wind advantage, and the fact that their wind turbines are just slightly cheaper means that they can get it on maps with wind turbines, or high wind speeds. They can manage to take advantage just by going ahead and building massive areas full of wind. It's a big old medium tank push right there. The Cyan Commander goes down to the red forces, takes out a load of the red forces though too, meaning that the Cyan Commander can go for a counterattack, but a huge red team yellow push from the medium tanks is going to sweep across the base right now for Lich 1584. Do we have a response? Welder's coming out of the lab right now for Lobster Meat. Looks like he's headed in that direction. My goodness, what a jammed up mess right here. 6 medium tanks is quite a stall of medium tanks there. Blue Commander trying to push these back as well as possible, but having a bit of a hard time It's the age-old problem with medium tanks. They're just so sturdy. How do you shut them down in an effective enough time? Sprinters technically are the answer here. They're not a very good answer, but they are technically the answer that Armada has. They're fairly low damage, but very high speed. So the way that they counter medium tanks is just by constantly moving around and not allowing the medium tanks to actually fire at them. Not necessarily the best way of dealing with them in a timely manner, though. Unfortunately, they still die pretty easily. Welder's going to move in this direction right now, which are a decent option. Hound's also quite decent as well. If you put the Hounds into their Gauss mode, there we go. The Blue Commander just switching them over now. They're going to be able to hit those medium tanks a little bit easier. There you go. An excellent showcase of them failing to do just that. And these medium tanks in the backline are still going to pose such a huge threat. Yeah, we never really dealt with these. And the Welder was, well, moving into position. But if there's one thing about the Welders, it's not that they're fast. They tend to crawl across the battlefield very, very slowly. A few opportunities here for the blue team to counterattack as the green commander has a direct path straight towards the orange facility, but that commander standing in the way is a imminent threat of degunnery, and you never want to run your vehicle army directly towards a commander. That's a straight calling for a degun, and that's one of the quickest ways to throw a lead. This is massive, though. Yeah, these yellow tanks have ravaged the backline economies here. You can see dozens of metal extractors, maybe a dozen in total metal extractors, all down right now for the blue team, because all of them have been shut down by those medium tanks. And they're not done yet. They're going to continue sweeping across this backline. This is a huge, huge hit to the economy right now. We're going for an advanced geothermal right now. I just don't think there's any energy in the tank here for the green and yellow player, or the green and cyan players. Cyan completely knocked out of this game at this point. The red team with an overwhelming energy and metal advantage. It's only a matter of time before that does start to press its weight against the blue team. More and more units coming up every single second. We've got T2 vehicles coming up here for the yellow commander. A single lone strato bomber has just been left to its own devices here. The energy advantage is really the entire, really the biggest benefit right now that I think the red team has over the blue. Lobster Meat calls the resign. The blue team falling behind in metal production, energy production, army value, defense value, and overall damage. The red team sweeping ahead in the contest here. Yeah, this army from Laughing not able to do much. That gunslinger farming XP right here, firing away at the tanks and analyzing every shot. Trying to gain as much experience, learn how to fight this fight as effectively as possible. And doing a wonderful job of it, yeah. No energy to fire the heavy laser tower either means this gunslinger will go entirely unpunished despite standing well within range of that heavy laser tower there. AGO going to be a nice spec of production. 1,250 energy per second is going to be phenomenal for pumping out units. It's time for the blue army to make a push. They've got sprinters coming up here, and they're going to be wonderful for pushing forward. Scuttle's just going ahead and building 1,000,000 LLTs. It's certainly one answer to the sprinter. Of course, they're very, very light in the armor plating, which means that they can be fairly easily overwhelmed by just regular LLTs. They're so quick, though, that oftentimes if you set the LLTs up in a static location, which, of course, static defense can't move, yeah, they're going to be pretty easily running around that static defense and just heading towards your softer, squishier areas. Sir Ice Cream stepping forward here, using the commander as a little bit of a threatening tool right now. Welders stepping forward on the right-hand side. That's a big army of welders, too, coming out of the orange production facility, just going ahead and sweeping through that right-hand side, trying to make sure that the production stays down. Janus missile, ooh, doing more friendly fire damage than anything else right there. Yeah, sprinters, I mean, here's the thing. Sprinters are so good at wrapping around those tanks and doing loads of damage that way. The problem is that takes a huge amount of micro to deal with. As opposed to Fiends, for instance, which just crash against the enemy's wall, and when they die, they explode, and they don't even leave a wreckage. Sprinters tend to leave wrecks all over the place, and they tend to not necessarily do as much damage in their lifespan, which is definitely a shame for the 190 metal that you pay for them. Only 10 metal cheaper than a Fiend, but significantly worse. Lightning tanks now rolling out of the lab and going to be perfect for shutting down these sprinters. Yeah, the light armor plating on their chassis, not going to stand up to those lightning bolts coming out of that Jaguar tank. This little anti-air missile mounted on back as well. These little battery coils on the side, firing away a big lightning beam. Sprinters sprinting down the avenue here. You know, I appreciate it. The blue commander trying to make it work. We do have a bunch of bombers in the air as well. These are good old-fashioned Stormbringers, so T1 Armada bombers, not the most powerful thing in the world, as we've seen already this game. Could be a case here, though, of the red team not being prepared for air despite going into air themselves. Well, there you go. Green Commander trades out for the orange, opening up this lane over on the right-hand side. Loads of welders and tanks pushing forward, though. We need an army to clear all this up. Bombers headed out. Oh, this is dangerous. Dangerously close right now as the sprinters get into the back line. Scuttles, the last commander of the red team, over here on the left-hand side. Bombers heading towards the base, though. Looking to pop this advanced geothermal. The time has come for bomber warfare. No anti-air countermeasures here. Chainsaw has started up. Bombs away, though. Do we have enough bombers in order to pop this AGO? Ooh, it's going to be close. I think we do, and boom goes the base for the orange commander. A beautiful bombing run right there with those Strato Bombers Stormbringers, managing to take down a huge swath of the orange production. All the build power in the lab also brought to 28%. I mean, suddenly this match has become quite a bit closer than it previously was. Cyan Commander rebuilding right now, trying to get back into this game. We need build power handed over, maybe handing over the commander or something like that. Not the end of the world. The orange commander without energy. Yeah, no energy in the tank means these welders are useless. Oh no. Now we have a whopping 2,000 metal worth of welders and Centurion up in the northern side here, right up against the blue base, but they can't fire. Oh, that's tragic. What a tragedy. Banshees in the air here to shoot these down. Banshees countering welders is hilarious. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Yeah, I mean, this is... These welders are as good as dead. They can't even fire right now. Oh my goodness. That's a tragedy. The orange commander should be screaming into the microphone right now, begging for energy, as these welders are unable to fire at anything and get dissected. Oh no. Now the air superiority goes over to the red team. Pardon me, to the blue team. The red team falling to the air superiority here. There's no way. Massive force pushing forward right now. Medium tanks, sprinters, all sorts of stuff. Lobster Meat, the very last commander, trying to pump out as much as possible. More welder production underway. We need to stop these Banshees. These things are never going to find as much value as we need right now. Oh, lightning tanks and welders and all the rest of it trying to connect in as big a way as they possibly can. But man, those sprinters are bad in a big open combat like that. AGO going to be the prime target. And boom goes the AGO. The blue base completely devastated. Neck and neck right here between these two teams. Tearing apart the bases left, right, and center. Lobster Meat is found. Uh-oh. Lobster Meat is found. Boom goes the blue commander. The last blue commander, meaning that the red team manages to steal the game, but Scuttles, the last remaining red commander, hiding in the LLT forest, barely managing to stay alive. What a back and forth nail biter between these two top level teams. Could not have predicted that ending whatsoever. If those bombers had found the commander over here, maybe it would have been a different story. But at the end of the day, the red team pulls ahead into the lead, using their eco advantage and using their map presence to use their eventual map presence to their advantage, taking out the enemy bases one by one. Medium tanks making a massive showing this game too. Phew, what a match. Thanks a ton for watching. I sure hope you enjoyed. What an explosive climax at the end there. Definitely has my heart racing, and I'll see you in the very next cast of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.